You recording me?
I'm recording you.
Beautiful. Okay, so I better not say anything inappropriate, right? You know what? I'm gonna. This will be pretty straightforward. Almost everybody was here, but I need make sure you guys listen up because there's lots of important information for everyone here. Okay, so we went through a lot of this stuff last year, but I just want to kind of revisit it. This year, I was already telling the gentleman that I'm going to give them home training. So I've done some extra stuff around that, and every week we'll have some home training. I guarantee you, everybody here, that if you follow through and you do what you need to do on a daily basis, all of you are going to have the ability to move up next year. Okay? I can almost guarantee that because you're going to gain significant amounts of skills over the course of this season if you put in a little extra work. So, for those of you, primarily this family here with Ryan, I'm John. Myself and Steve are leading the team. Steve is the fun coach, I'm the more serious one. Okay.
John has a fun side too, don't let us say both, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just a little bit more serious. So in my email, and I do have copies of it in here, I've got codes of conduct that talk a little bit about what is expected of players and parents. So a lot of it, just a quick synopsis, a lot of it has to do with, in particular with the players, just being respectful to everybody around them. Not only being respectful on the field, but off the field, okay? So what that means is, part of that respect is getting your homework done, talking to your parents nicely, getting your chores done, having your priorities straight, understanding that it's a privilege to be out here and that your parents give up a lot for you to be here, right? Okay? So if your report card, if you have grades that are not passing, I don't want you out here, okay? I want you working hard on your schoolwork first and foremost. Okay, that's your job, right? Okay, parents. So I don't really have to worry about this group. You guys are awesome. You know, when I hear and I talk to people about the fact that I coach, people sometimes say to me, "Oh, well, what about the parents?" And I go, "I don't have to worry. I got an awesome group to deal with. You guys were amazing last year. So nothing but motivational to the whole team, so I really appreciate that. This year, we're going to do a lot of technical training. I don't know if anybody watched at the beginning here, but we're going to do a lot of technical training, and then that's going to be the basis of going home during the week. So I've got a log that I made in here, and I'll pass these around. I created a log, and I want players to record what they've done in terms of home training. I've got that here, okay? And so I'll pass those out at the end. There is the girls' ones there too, so I'll pass those out at the end because of the wind. But basically, all I ask is if each player, off the exercises that we go over, 10 minutes a day. That's all you need to put in this. It shouldn't be an overwhelming thing, but that's an extra 70 minutes a week. And throughout the course of the whole season, it'll make a big difference. I don't know if many of you heard what I was saying to the players last year. I do typically set a weekly goal for players. So it's something typically I'll bring to practice on Monday and then reiterate. Parents, have a ask of the kids or your son of what was the goal? Ask them a couple of times, okay? Some of the goals that we just need to keep it in the back of our mind because it could be something that we really need to know. And if you don't know what it means, just pretend like you do. Because there's a lot of soccer terminology that we go into that I don't expect any of the parents to know. Shin guards, cleats, practice, all of that is mandatory. Last year in particular, not in the boys, but on the girls team, I had many girls that weren't wearing shin guards to practice. So want to make sure that players are kept safe. If it's cold, for those that, you know, again, I'm stating some of the obvious here. if it's cold, put the warm clothing on. Toques are fine, gloves are fine. Goalkeepers, and we didn't get into the goalkeeper conversation. I have to recruit another goalkeeper, so keep your mind open to that if anybody here wants to try as goalkeeper. If I could kindly ask, and this includes my own son, I'm going to embarrass you for a moment because you were late. I would ask that players try and be 5 or 10 minutes early before the posted time for the practice, just so right at that time we can get going and we don't kind of waste any time sitting around or anything like that. If anybody ever needs a practice or a ride or anything to a game or practice, just let Stephanie or I know. I didn't introduce Stephanie, by the way. She's back there, team manager. You've probably seen her emails. So just let us know. We'll figure it out. I'm sure most of us are spread out all throughout Abbotsford, so it's not hard to accommodate. Phoenix is probably a perfect example of this. Last year he was injured, but he still tried to make it out as much as he could to practice. I remember Cooper was injured at a certain point. He came out to practice. So if anybody gets injured, I would like to see you still come out to practice, just so you can hear what we're talking about, because even hearing everything and being in the environment is important, particularly if we're going into a new strategy or a new concept that we haven't touched on yet. Last year, and actually one of the biggest memories I have of last year was literally rain over on Mowat Turf 2 is just coming down, and we were the only team out there pretty much. Coach Steve couldn't hear what I was saying, I couldn't hear what he was saying, nobody could really hear what anybody else was saying, but we had a great time. I actually thought that maybe was one of our most fun practices at the end of the year, or at the whole season. So just please bring it out, be out there. If we're gonna cancel, Stephanie or I will let you know, just like we did over the last week. That was ugly, by the way. This one, and I can't believe I put this in here, but this is just over my last few years of experience. I don't know if any of you guys have cell phones, okay? Cell phones, if you bring into practice, need to stay in the bag and can't come out at practice or game time, okay? You can deal with that after the game is over, unless there's a medical emergency. That's kind of the only exception. But we definitely want to focus on the game or the practice. This one here, and I'll explain the reason behind it, because I think it's very important. As a team, I like to see us very connected like we were last year. I think this team was a very good example last year of staying connected. So this was actually not directed towards this group, because I'm using the same message for the girls team. But if I could kindly ask that at practice, when we speak and team players speak, if there's any other alternative languages, we primarily just speak one language of soccer, okay? And English, okay? So I would appreciate that, just so we can all be on the same page. Playing time. So last year, and if you're new to the team, there's two gentlemen here. What dictates playing time is how hard you come to practice and train, being at practice, and just putting a full effort in. If you come to practice and you put a full effort in and you happen to make a mistake in a game, I'm not going to cut your playing time. It's about the effort you put in, okay? So don't be afraid of making a mistake. Be afraid of not working hard enough, because that's what's going to cut your playing time. So parents, if you do notice that your son's playing time is going down, I would encourage you to first ask your son if they're working hard enough in practice. Okay? Because if you see their time declining, it's probably because they're just maybe not taking it quite seriously enough. And I want to put people out on the field in the games who want to work hard and be successful. This one, I almost laugh reading it again, is if we can, if anybody has any concerns, as best you can, just try to talk to me personally. I really like to avoid emails. I know we're in an electronic age, but really like to try to avoid emails. So if you have any concerns, just let me know. And I think always the 24-hour rule is a really good one. So if you have any concerns, maybe wait until the following practice, because sometimes around sports, and it's not just soccer, we all get a little emotional. So it just saves us from, causing unnecessary conversations, because I think we have a great team, and I'd love to keep it that way. Style of play. So that's really dictated, and some of you coming from different spots, you may have dealt with different concepts that the coach had asked you to do before. So we try to set a very controlled style of play. What we try, and again, this team, we didn't play this way last year, but what I would encourage the parents not to cheer for is if somebody's feeling nervous on the field and they kick the ball away when there's no pressure around you, we don't want to cheer for that. We want to try to control the game and not give up the ball, okay? So players, if you're feeling a little nervous, that's okay, but learn from your mistakes, okay? If you make them, that's all we're trying to do, okay? Positions, okay? So a few of you probably experienced this last year. I may have put you in a couple of positions where, in terms of games where you may not have been the most comfortable. There's probably going to be a few more changes, and you guys are only 13. So give a variety of different positions a try. And what that means is, if you go into a position and you really are feeling initially like you don't like it, just give it a couple weeks. And then after a couple of weeks, come and talk to me one-on-one about it. Let's try and talk about it in practice, so then I can plan accordingly, but not at game time, because usually I have everything planned out at that point. Goalkeepers. So if anybody does volunteer for goalkeeping, I will do extra training specifically with the goalkeepers. I did that regularly last year. Depending on the day, it was before or after practice. Captains. So last year we rotated a lot, depending on how things kind of pan out. We may have one dedicated captains, or we may rotate around. This one, okay. I put this in here more as a factor of the league. The league we're in is changing, so the whole setup, everything is changing. There's no cup play this year. The whole setup of the season is different. We go from regular season play, and then in the new year, we go into a championship, okay, at that point. Then we play round robin play. So it's very different than what we experienced last year. If anything, and I'm not opposed to this, is it's going to be more difficult this year. It's going to be more difficult. But parents, what I was getting to, I kind of went off my line there, which I normally do. Parents, this is a league rule. In the rule books, it asks all the parents to stay in the spectators area versus around the bench area. Only the game officials and team players with cards are allowed to be in the spectators area. But where I do encourage you to come into the area is if we have a game where we have a particularly good performance or a particularly poor performance, I would encourage you to join our post-game conversation so you can hear what I'm saying. So, I don't think we had any bad post-game conversations last year. Not that I remember. This is a big one. It's hard sometimes. I have to question myself sometimes. Players, I want you to try to have positive communication with your teammates. If they mess up somehow, they know they messed up. You don't have to tell them, okay? Try to encourage them, right? Right? It's a hard one, I know. We've got a little bit of little extra costs that will come into the season. I just want to talk, or it doesn't necessarily all have to come up, but I'll just kind of briefly speak on that. Wait, Stephanie, was there any cost for Team Snap?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just gonna absorb it personally.
Okay. We'll maybe discuss that a little further. So, team snacks. These guys are 13, but I still think it's great. Do you guys like having oranges or something else at halftime still?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I am not opposed to that. I like that idea. We've got actually Coach Steve started this, so thanks Coach Steve. He started the process, and we're one of 3 teams where we're going to have long sleeve jerseys this year. In the climate we're in, I don't think it makes sense to have short sleeve jerseys. So we actually have long sleeve jerseys. If you're too warm, you can roll them up. But it's full length. They're actually going to be red this year. We're no longer going to wear. This is actually the exact jersey here. I did assume that it was going to be okay for anybody. If you have any problems with this, just let me know. Each jersey, the difference in cost was like $4 to have a long sleeve. So I figured it was well worth it in the climate that we're in. And then let me just see. I would like to at some point. I'd like to see us do a tournament. I'd love to see us do a tournament. Did a tournament with the girls team last year. It was a phenomenally exciting experience. We had 4 games in 2 days. It was so much fun. So much fun. The girls went through round robin play, finished tops, went to the finals, and ended up being runners up to the tournament. It was so exciting, so much fun. So I would love to see us out there. Parents, anybody have a first aid training? Okay, so we'll have to keep that in mind. If there's anything I should know, you can either mention it to me later on, or even the email is fine for this one, is if your son has any health concerns I should know about, please let me know about it, because I'll take that into account. I have had, and I'm obviously not going to say any names, I had one player in past years I worked with a heart condition that I had to be aware of, and so that factored into how we did things. So just feel free. I would like to know that versus not to know. I won't share it with anybody else, but I will factor it into my decisions, because obviously I'm going to make sure that they're safe, right? Is there anybody that would like to volunteer? And I don't have anything in particular, but if Stephanie, Coach Steve, or I need another hand, it could be even just setting up a field or anything else like that. Is there anybody we can call upon? Anybody we can call upon? Could be 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. That one. Okay, I decided, okay, so Coach John likes to create things. So what I'm going to do actually for both teams is after 6 weeks, I'm going to send out an email to every player on both teams, and I have 5 yes and no questions that kind of give a brief update on how things are going. So if any of these come up, then we should have a conversation about how we can improve them. So the first question is the player playing according to the team philosophy or style of play, and style of play? Is the player practicing with full intensity? That's a big one, because that's going to lead into more playing time. Can the coach see improvements from home training? The player is using skills in practices and games, previously learned skills on an ongoing basis. So, meaning we did ball taps tonight, that's our home training. So, is there a point in time where we can apply that in a game or exercise environment? Is the player supportive of teammates and contributing to their success? So are they encouraging of other teammates? So we're almost through, guys. You look awfully entertained. So And actually, I was talking about how Coach Steve is the fun coach and I'm a little bit more serious. So what I want you guys to know as players or parents is that a lot of the times when the boys come off the field, I may not say a lot immediately off when they come off the field. I won't just naturally say to them, good job, good job, good job, because honestly, I feel that's a little empty. And what I want the boys to know is that when they've done a really good job, and I tell them they've done a good job, it actually means something. So gentlemen, if I give you and I tell you that you've done a good job, I want you to understand that I truly believe that. And I'm not just saying that because those are just another set of words, right? So it's more authentic than that, okay? I think there's 11, but in case you haven't seen it, we did set up, and if you haven't seen this, we set up a Facebook group. I'm gonna put lots, like practice results when we play games. Everything's gonna be competitive. The results of practice are gonna go online. Comments about the game are gonna go online. So if you see your son's name on the posting there, chances are they've been training pretty hard. Okay? So it's all meant to be just like anything else. We want to try to keep it positive, but we also want to keep it competitive, okay? So that we can get better. So, Santino. Would you like to share with the group what's going to happen for people who are late for practice, since you were late today? This is my son, by the way. This is my son, by the way. That's why I want to see him. So, in general, if players are late for practice, I'm going to send them for 2 laps at the end of practice, and that's not a punishment against the player. It's just chances are they miss that extra work in the practice, or I may send them to clean up, do something, right, to help out with the team. So, so players, help your parents, help create an environment so that it's easy for them to get out the door, right? So if they have 10 things to do before they get out the door, maybe you can take care of 5 of them, right?
Could you teach them how to drive themselves?
I wish. 3 years. 3 years. That's it. Other than if you can't make it to practice, what I would kindly ask is you just let me know, and if you don't mind, because I will base players' playing time off being at games. So if we've got a scenario where players are just not coming to practice, they're just for the first half of the game they're gonna sit on the bench. So it's just only fair, right? So if a player hasn't come to practice and a game comes, first half goes by, they're probably going to be on the bench the whole time. Of everybody else. I do understand that there's homework, there's school activities, there's family activities, so there's going to be just some times where it's necessary to miss practice because there's more to life than soccer. If those things come up, just let me know. We don't want to create an environment that so-and-so didn't come just because they felt like watching, American Ninja Warrior or something like that. Okay, so I'm looking forward to this season, guys. I'm super stoked. And I wanna conclude by all you guys thanking you for giving me such a memorable experience last year. And it's going to be tougher this year, but we're going to give it a good competitive run, okay? So thanks, guys.